Let's see. And there we go. Hey, what's up? Okay, cool. Hey guys, how you doing? Actually let me okay. Hopefully I am audioable and videoable now. Just wanted to make a few minor adjustments just because I wanted to really kind of push the boundaries of my technology. But alright. Josiah Haynes says these delays are unacceptable. I'm sorry. I was gonna make a J. Jonah Jameson reference, but boops. Oh well. Hopefully, senpai, I will be forgiven. Wait, I feel like that's racist to do that, so I'm just not gonna do that. But yeah, what's up? How you doing? What are you reading this week? Yes, that's what I want to know. How about I make it up to you, with you telling me what you read, and then I kiss your ass about how much I think what you read is like the greatest thing in the world and how impeccable your taste is. I think I think that makes up for it, right? Hopefully. But yeah, guys, let's just kind of jump right into it. Let's see. I didn't really get much this week. I ended up getting Peacemaker, Disturbing the Peace. This is a Garth Ennis book. Hey, what's up, Gabriella? I don't know what that means. Are you a bot? If you're a bot, you know, I'm not sure if you can reply to this actually if you're a bot. But actually, now I'm curious. Can bots pass the Turing test? Interesting. I don't know. I gotta look that up for later. But yeah, no. Peacemaker, Disturbing the Peace by Garth Ennis, and Gary Brown. I was pleasantly surprised when I learned that Garth Ennis was going to be working on a Peacemaker comic. But then it hit me like, oh, of course Garth Ennis would make a Peacemaker comic. Like, duh. This is like right up, Ennis's alley. Hey, what's up, DP fan? How you doing? But yeah, like, this reads almost exactly how a Peacemaker book by Garth Ennis would read if one would think of some such pairing in their brain. And it's really good, like, I expected Punisher Max, but like with Peacemaker, and that's what this is. Like, it's very there's a lot of dark humor, but like dark humor used for the sake of character building, and some of this I'm not sure how much of this he's pulling from like actual continuity, because I don't really know much about Peacemaker in the comics. I know what I read of him in Multiversity, where he's like just one of the supporting characters there. But it's weird because like in Multiversity, he's like it's less a riff on like the DC version of Peacemaker and more a riff on like the Charleston version of Peacemaker, because everyone's like a riff of their Charleston counterparts in Pax Americana from Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely. So I'm not really sure if this is pulling heavily from like DC's Peacemaker or Charleston's Peacemaker. Regardless, I thought it was a really interesting story. I thought Christopher Smith was like fascinatingly disconnected from the rest of humanity in this book. And yeah, no, dude, I really enjoyed this. This completely scratched my Punisher Max itch. Um, I think this is a one shot, and I hope to God that this sells well, because I really want more of this. This was really good. Like, I would love to see Garth Ennis do for Frank Castle, or not Frank Castle, do for Christopher Smith what he did for Frank Castle with Punisher Max, because this was a great starting place. Really good stuff. Josiah says that he is currently reading S.H.I.E.L.D. by Jonathan Hickman, and I'm gonna reread his entire Marvel epic. Dude, go for it. Like, seriously, go for it. I was, as I promised, I was going to kiss your ass about what you're reading, but I don't really think I need to. What you're reading is pretty great. The entire thing that, like, Hickman does, that, like, whole epic that he does, from Fantastic Four into, like, S.H.I.E.L.D., definitely S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. is great, and I'm glad that had, like, a proper ending recently. And then everything with the Avengers, that stuff's fantastic. That was a great reinvention of the Avengers, and in my opinion, that is probably on par with Grant Morrison's run on JLA. If, like, a comparison can be like drawn between the two. Really good stuff, and yeah, have a lot of fun with that, man. Especially all the stuff with, like, Time Runs Out with the incursions. Dude, great stuff. I just hope you because those things are very expensive. Well, I don't know. Some of the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff should be, like, discounted by now. I know at my local comic shop, S.H.I.E.L.D. is, like, in the 50% off section. Just because it's been out for so long, and, like, it's so underground that, like, nobody really knows about it. So, like, it wasn't really a hot seller. But yeah, no, like, a lot of that stuff's pretty good. DP Fan says, I really like that collab on Marvel vs. DC tribalism and religion wars. Then he goes on to say, a lot of times with fandoms, when their stuff gets mainstream, or mainstream treatment in media shared with different audiences, it seems like it always starts a fan versus fan war. Yep. And that's exactly what, me and Jack Genocide were talking about the other day. Thanks. I'm really glad I could do that video for you guys. That was something that I was really trying to do. That video was actually supposed to come out a couple weeks ago, but Jack and I had scheduling conflicts. But yeah, I was really glad I was able to do that with him and talk about some of that stuff with you guys. He makes a lot of really good points. He's a really smart guy. Yeah, he's a buddy of mine that I met at my local comic shop. But yeah, no, like, that's the weird thing about, like, fandom. It is religion for a lot of people. And that's like a really weird and kind of scary thought. So yeah, no, I just think that's fascinating and scary. But yeah, no. What else? Oh, actually, before I go anywhere, DP Fan, what did you read this week? Let me know. Let me know. Let me know what's in your pull list for this Wednesday. But yeah, as for me, next up I had Captain America Iron Man. This book continues to be, like, really fun. It's just a fun, like, 70s style Marvel adventure. It's really cool, and it's using a lot of the stuff from, like, the Initiative, from that post-Civil War era. Like, using a lot of, like, kind of like D-list characters from that Initiative era. It's really fun. This is a really fun comic. It's one of those things that, like, will definitely just be in, like, a dollar bin or, like, a 50-cent back issue bin in, like, the next couple of years. But honestly, a lot of that stuff is the stuff that I like to go back to when when I'm like, back issue diving, because a lot of that stuff's really fun. It's just kind of like a snapshot of what this universe or what that world looked like in this decade. And yeah, it's just a fun comic. I really like that Marvel's kind of going back to like doing stuff like this. Christopher Cantwell's Iron Man dropped today too, and I'm collecting that series in trade. But I flipped through it at my comic shop, and again, it's really fun. It feels like a comic that you would read during the George Perez era on the Avengers, or like the Kurt Busiek and George Perez era. It feels like an Avengers comic that you would, or not an Avengers comic, it feels like an Iron Man comic that you'd check out during like the Leighton and Michelini era. It's just fun. I like it a lot. So yeah, no, I'm having a lot of fun with this current era of Marvel comics. It's funny, I see a lot of people like freak out about like, oh my god, the comic industry is terrible at SJWs, and there's nothing worth reading at the big two. And even I get like that sometimes, like I had that dramatic moment, like last week, where I was like, I think Marvel and DC are postmortem. I don't know. I don't really agree with myself about that point. Now that I've like kind of thought about it a little more. There's a lot of good stuff at Marvel and DC. They just have peaks and valleys. And when they peak, and when they valley, you almost end up with something like Snowflake and Safe Space. I'm so glad that that's not a thing. Like I'm seriously. Sorry. I'm stirring my tea right next to my microphone, and hopefully that does not destroy anyone's ears. Like sometimes you just have to like take a step back, even when you're like painfully frustrated with like the big two, or just the comics industry as a whole. Sometimes you just got to take a step back and go like, first of all, it's comics. I can't afford to just freak out about this, about a thing I love. But second of all, like, every decade has its ups and downs. When people talk about the 80s a lot, I like to watch a lot of videos by Perch. He's one of the comic book YouTubers that I like still keep up with pretty faithfully. But he does a lot of videos talking about like the 80s, and like he almost kind of like fetishizes the 80s a little bit, which does show his age just a tad. But he's always talking about how like the 80s were like the best decade for comics, and I agree that there's a lot of really good stuff in the 80s, but not everything was Watchmen. Not everything was Dark Knight Returns, despite people nowadays saying that Dark Knight Returns was actually it wasn't really that good. Like, Batman's a fascist, and like that book's dumb. That's a whole different topic. But not everything was Dark Knight Returns. Not everything was Killing Joke. Not everything was For the Man Who Has Everything, or Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. Not everything was Marv Wolfman and George Perez's Teen Titans. Not everything was Jim Starlin Batman. Not everything was Troy Thomas Avengers. There was a lot of crap in the 80s. Just like there was a lot of crap in the 70s. But also, just like there was a lot of crap in the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of good stuff in the 80s. There were a lot of good stuff in the 70s. Just like there was a lot of good stuff in the 60s. There's a lot of good stuff coming out right now. And there's a lot of stuff that I think is terrible, but there's also stuff that I think is coming out now that will be seen as like classics in the near future, or even the far future. I don't know. Oh, my hair looks unruly. It feels unruly too. Oh, I got some new chats down here. DP fan says, I've been rereading and digitally collecting Daniel Way's Deadpool Volume 2. The run that split the Deadpool fan base in half. Serious Pool versus Funny Pool. Dawn of endless debates. LOL. Yeah, I'm guilty of being in the in the former camp on that one. But again, it's one of those things where, like, I'm not a fan of Daniel Way's Deadpool, but I also understand that there's a lot of people who are introduced to Deadpool during that era of the character. So for them, like, that's their Deadpool. It's the same thing with Spider-Man. You know, like, I don't like the Dan Slott Spider-Man, but there's a lot of people who are introduced to Spider-Man through Dan Slott. Therefore, you know, same thing with Deadpool. You know, I love Joe Kelly's Deadpool. That's like the stuff that I grew up reading because it was the stuff that was affordable when I was growing up. Because Marvel is very expensive for some reason. I mean, DC's too. I don't know why the big two in the comic industries like to, like, price things the way they do when this is a medium that you know, kids read comics, which, I mean, everybody reads comics, but, like, this medium can't really survive if kids aren't breaking in and reading comics. So maybe price them a little cheaper so kids can actually afford them. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, no, I got into Deadpool by reading a lot of the older Joe Kelly stuff. So for me, that's just Deadpool. But yeah, no. It all just depends on what you were exposed to first. Josiah says, have you been reading Ram v Swamp Thing? Also, do you have a favorite indie comic series? I have not been reading Ram v Swamp Thing. Because I still haven't read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. And I really want to... This probably isn't going to make sense to anyone but myself. But the reason I haven't read a lot of modern Swamp Thing is because I haven't read classic... Well, not classic Swamp Thing. Classic Swamp Thing would be like Lin Wein and like stuff from like the Bronze Age. But I haven't read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, which is what a lot of people say is the birth of modern era Swamp Thing. So I want to read a lot of that stuff before I hop into the current era stuff. Yeah, that's that. I know there's a lot that I have to read because I have to read the Scott Snyder run, and I also have to read the. There's another Swamp Thing run that came out a couple years ago too, I think. But yeah, no, I want to read Alan Moore stuff and then go from there. But to answer your second question, do I have a favorite indie comic series? Well, that changes a lot. Because it really just depends on what I'm, like, what's in my face area. And as of right now, what is in my face area is Jupiter's Legacy. This is a great comic series. And also transitions me right into the third and final book that I picked up this week. This is the sequel series to Mark Millar's Jupiter's Legacy, which dropped like, when did that come out? Like 2012? 2012 was when he was still doing Kick-Ass in 2012. Maybe 2015, 2016? Yeah, no, I really enjoy that whole Jupiter's Legacy universe. I remember when Jupiter's Circle came out, I just kind of blew it off at the time. One, because I wasn't a fan of the art. I didn't really get what they were doing. I also didn't really see the need to go back to the island and go back to the lore of, you know, how not the Seven, that's the boys. The Utopian and like all the other superheroes of that universe ended up getting their superpowers. But it was a pretty interesting story. And I thought it was really fun and cool. And there's a lot of world building there. You know, I really like it. And reading Jupiter's Legacy and then going into Jupiter's Circle and then going into this. Yeah, this is kind of perfect. And from what I've read so far, because I haven't gotten too far into this, I only read like the first like 3 issues. And this contains the first 6, I think? Yeah. The first 6, and I think this is going to be like a 12-issue series. This is kind of dealing with a little bit of that, like, you know, what happened on the island. It's the mystery of the island. And yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I also really like the art in this. Like, hold on a second. This is dope. In a way, this kind of reminds me of John Paul Leon, who did Earth X and stuff like that. Like John Paul Leon mixed with like Jock. That's a weird comparison to make. But yeah, no, like stuff like this. It's very Jock, with like the heavy inks and whatnot. But it's also very John Paul Leon with like the faces. Because you can capture like a lot of words. You capture a lot of emotion and like different colors and shading on the faces and whatnot. Just really good stuff. Who's this artist again? I feel like I just said your name, but you know if I didn't. Tommy Lee Edwards. Cool. And the colorist is Giovanna Nero. Cool. Yeah, I like this art team a lot. They're really good. I do kind of feel like I was catfished with this cover. When I see a Frank Quietly cover, my instincts tell me to buy, because Frank Quietly. Why wouldn't I buy anything that Frank Quietly has worked on? But yeah, I think Frank Quietly is just kind of becoming like a cover artist, which would be unfortunate because Frank Quietly's interiors are like breathtaking. If you've read Batman Reborn, which is like probably the most popular. No, I was gonna say that's the most popular thing he's done, but I take that back. All-Star Superman's definitely the most popular thing that he's done, right? I think if people know Frank Quietly from one thing, it's All-Star Superman, and maybe New X-Men. Who I've also met people who have not read New X-Men, which is bizarre to me, considering that's like one of the principal runs of the X-Men. Weird. But a buddy of mine, actually, he hasn't read it. Which, when he told me why, I kind of get it, because he was working in a comic book store at the time, and it was like X-Men, it was like peak X-Men overexposure. So he was just tired and didn't care. And that makes sense. I even like offered for him to like check it out, and he's like, I'm not reading that shit. And I was like, alright, fine, fair enough. But yeah, no. Be that as it may, regarding the Frank Quietly matter, this art's still great. I love it. And yeah, I'm having a lot of fun reading this. This is really good. Let's see. DP fan. Deadpool as time went on, since Joe Kelly's Deadpool got sillier and sillier. Especially the underrated Christopher Priest run, who had the character completely break the fourth wall treatment. Yeah, so it's weird. I really like Joe Kelly's run a lot. And I get where you're coming from when you say that like it got sillier and sillier. Although I always felt like there was some sort of, I don't know, it felt like there was pathos behind the humor. Like the humor was serving the story, as opposed to like a lot of stuff we get now where it's just LOL. But the Christopher Priest stuff, I've read a very long time ago, and I haven't gone back to it. So yeah. But Christopher Priest is great. He's also a great humor writer. People talk about Christopher Priest in regards to like drama, because his drama is fantastic. But if you've ever read like Quantum and Woody from Valiant, that stuff's hilarious. Yeah, no, I really like a lot of the Christopher Priest comics. Christopher Priest is one of those writers that like. Have you noticed this? There's like. There are the A-list, writers that we all talk about, like like your Mark Millar's, your Grant Morrison's, despite the fact that he's canceled, your Wolverine Ellis's, your Jeff Johns's, who else? Who else is on that list? Oh, your Garth Ennis's, your Bendis's, but we often never talk about like. I guess like the B-list writers that like sometimes put out top tier quality on a consistent basis and like nobody talks about them. Christopher Priest is one of those writers I put on that list. He's B-list in the sense that like he's not a super household name, but the quality of his work is like above A-list. It's like S tier, like perfection. I cannot think of a bad Christopher Priest comic. Can you? Exactly. JMD Mateus is on that list too. Like, can you think of a bad JMD Mateus comic? I can't. I can think of a bad JMD Mateus like animated movies. So some of those animated adventures aren't that great. Superman Red Sun. I was surprised to see his name in the credits. But JMD Mateus is like an amazing writer when it comes to like his comics. So yeah, it's just weird that there's like a lot of writers out there that like turn out top tier content and just I don't know, they feel underrated, and that's unfortunate. But yeah, DP Fan says, I really enjoy Mark Millar's Millar World. I do too. I think a lot of that stuff's really good that he does. It's kind of unfortunate that people just write Mark Millar off as like, he's edgy. But, I mean, yeah, he's edgy. What the fuck does that even mean, by the way? Edgy. What? He has people swear? He shows people having sex? Like... But he did it with superheroes and it's edgy. Dog, not everything has to be All-Star Superman, dog. Like, straight up. Not everything has to be super wholesome and fun. You can have things break barriers. I'm tired of that argument. I'm sorry. I'm just getting into a point where like I'm just writing off people who like just write off Mark Millar and like other writers like that just because edgy. I think that's kind of dumb. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I really like the Mark Millar stuff. I think Mark Millar's Millar World's really good. DP Fan goes on to say, WTF happened to Netflix's Jupiter's Legacy, canceled after the first season, right after Invincible came out with the same theme concept and superhero families. I don't know what happened with that. I can tell you I didn't watch beyond the first like 3 episodes. And I usually try not to be one of those guys who just completely writes stuff off if it's not comic accurate. But the thing I really liked about Jupiter's Legacy, the comic, is that it's not really about the superheroes and the superhero team. Like, the Utopian and Liberty Bell, not Liberty Bell, that's DC Comics character. The Utopian and like Lady Liberty, they die in like the first issue, and there's like a superhero coup, and Brainwave, and like a bunch of other like superheroes gone bad, and like supervillains, they take over the world to like make the world a perfect place. That's the point of Jupiter's Legacy. And then, you know, there's like a freedom resistance thing, and like, you know, the grandson of the Utopian saves the what? Like it. I don't know. I wanted to support it. I really wanted to, but like, it just kind of drove me crazy that like the show completely missed the point of what the comic was. But yeah, Invincible was great though, because Invincible, in my opinion, understood what the comic was going for, and even kind of, I don't want to say improved on the comic. It adapted the material in a way that I thought was more suitable for animation. In the same way that, like, when reading manga, like My Hero Academia, for example, just because that's like the first thing that popped in my head. When you read My Hero Academia, certain interactions are a little different, and there are certain fight scenes that are different in the manga versus the anime, but that's because, you know, it's a different medium, so things have to be translated a little differently. I feel like not the boy. I almost said the boys just because I'm looking at Josiah's chat right there. But no, like just stuff got adapted to fit the material better, and I don't know. I think Invincible is probably like the best example of a Western anime in that sense. And also why I think Invincible was far better executed than most of the other superhero stuff that gets adapted. Not just from Mark Millar stuff, but like in general. With like Marvel and DC stuff as well. DP fan says, I heard Christopher Priest didn't want to be tied down by Marvel and DC because they always wanted him on black character books, so he decided to be a creator of variety in the characters that he works on. Yes, that is true. He said that in an interview a couple years ago. I can't remember with who, but if that's what was going down at Marvel and DC, and not if, come on, we know, people at Marvel and DC will get hired because like they'll throw these like Twitter campaigns about like, I'm black, let me write Riri Williams because I have the same hair as her. You know, they would, I can totally see, you know, Christopher Priest trying to pitch like an Iron Man story, and and like the editors at Marvel going like, no, we hear you, Chris, but what if you did Blade? Because we think you have what it takes to write about more ethnic characters. I can totally see that happening. Or like, hey, I have the story idea for Superman, and DC's like, what if you did like Steel? You know, because I think you have a great distinct voice for the urban side of the DC universe. I could totally see those conversations going on behind closed doors. And if Christopher Priest just peaced out, and if that's the reason why he's doing more creator-owned stuff, more power to him. You know, like, I raise my tea to you, sir. Because that's racist and fucked up. Like, there's like no other way to say that. It is. Which is a huge loss for Marvel and DC, because I do think that he was one of the better writers there. At like both of those companies. Like I really like a lot of the Rebirth stuff that came out of DC. Especially like Superman by Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason. I still love Dan Jurgens. He's like one of my favorite writers for DC. But I mean, that Deathstroke book was like on a completely different level. Like that book was great. Yeah, come on. And I heard there were rumors a couple years ago that like Christopher Priest wanted to do Iron Man. And I love the Christopher Cantwell run. I think it's fantastic. It, again, like I've said earlier, and other streams, and even on here today, I think Christopher Priest and Cafu's Iron Man is like probably one of the best comics that Marvel's putting out right now, if not the best. But oh my god, can you imagine a Christopher Priest Iron Man book? Dude. Like Christopher Priest even did a book a couple months ago for Marvel's like little synergy engine with the MCU, a U.S. agent book. That was really solid from what I read of it. I never finished it because the final issue sold out. Just because my the owner of my local comic shop, he just didn't order a lot because I don't know why, but yeah, I was like reading those in store, and I promised to get myself the trade, but I just never got around to getting myself the trade. But yeah, no, Priest is an amazing writer. He's like one of the best of the best. Also, that Sacred Six book that he's working on, like the Vampirella series, really great stuff. Like I absolutely love that comic. It's fantastic. I don't want to say he elevated the material because first of all, I don't know much about Vampirella. But also like that's like a TNA kind of thing, and it's not really my thing when it comes to comics. More power to anyone else who is, but that's just not really what I'm into. No, like that stuff that he did with Vampirella is really cool. Yeah, no, I think Christopher Priest is a great writer. Also, I see that we have 3 concurrent viewers. How about we get some 3? That's like 3 likes on this video, huh? Yeah, let's get 3 likes on this stream. Let's see. Josiah Haynes says, I think stuff like The Boys can be described as edgy, but not so much Mark Millar. Yeah, but that's also Garth Ennis. Like, Garth Ennis is an edgy boy. You know, like... But I think Garth Ennis's, like, edginess is... A lot of it serves story. Whereas, like... You know, sometimes... I don't know, I get where people are coming from when they make that argument. I just think it gets overused. But yeah, the Boys is edgy. And even like a detriment to itself. Because I think by the time you get to the end of that comic series, Garth Ennis is like asking you to like take the characters in the world seriously. But dude, it was just... You wrote like a 60+ issue comic that's like just filthy jokes about like superheroes are actually like it's Hollywood and like, you know, it's not gay for homies. I don't know. A lot of that stuff's just like mean-spirited and spiteful and like silly and like, I don't know. Asking me to take that material seriously after you do all that, I'm not gonna. Compared to like something like Punisher Max, which is still very silly and cynical, but like also takes itself a little seriously. So like, I care about Frank and I care about the characters that Frank is involved with. So yeah, and I can also see people like labeling Mark Millar as edgy too, but I don't know. I I just feel like the whole throwing edgy as a phrase or like a buzzword at things is just it's lazy. Like I remember people not remember people still to this day do. They'll like describe Batman v Superman or like the Snyder movies as like edgy, and it's like Man of Steel's no edgier than like any Superman comic between 1988 and 2010. Like you're really gonna sit there and tell me that like, you know, but Superman like he it was bleak and he killed General Zod. General Zod is like the Kenny of DC Comics. Like that dude, he after Crisis on Infinite Earths, when like that whole DC universe got rebooted, like he just dies all the time. It's like kind of parodic. Those movies are dramatic, but they're not edgy. Like I think a lot of people like to think they're edgy. But yeah, I don't know. Or even like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films. People talked about like the first Amazing Spider-Man as being like it's edgy Spider-Man, which is silly considering the history of Spider-Man. Like you look at a lot of those classic Spider-Man comics, and they're I don't know. You put yourself in the time and place of like the 1960s. Those comics are kind of edgy by comparison. To like your average Wonder Woman comic or your average Batman comic. They're pretty edgy. They're about like teen issues and teen angst and whatnot. So, I don't know. And I guess continuing on this path, DP Fan says, the edgy versus campy wars nowadays. Like anything edgy gets shamed by society, mass population, despite people constantly asking for darker and deeper stuff in superhero media. Maybe it's a mainstream thing? Maybe. I don't know, man. It is irritating, though. I can tell you that. Like, Mr. Miracle is, like, very edgy. But, like, it's edgy in, like, an ironic kind of way. I think, you know what it is? I think people have latched on to that buzzword. When what they really are trying to say is they want something that's complex or like has dimension. But they want it to have dimension, but they also don't want the material to like take itself too seriously, because if it takes itself seriously, well then it's if it takes itself seriously, well then how can they take it seriously? Because if the material takes itself seriously, well then like it's parodic and like it's so blah and dumb, like because he's in a costume and like like it's red and green and like it's just really dumb. I don't know. I do think we're living in like a hell of Joss Whedon's creation. Where there was like an entire generation that grew up on like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel and stuff like that, and they just kind of expect that style of storytelling for everything. And once again, thank you, Joss Whedon, for ruining everything. We really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Thanks, Joss. You're amazing. Wonder. Your contribution to entertainment and literature is unfathomable. Unfathomable. I'm gonna try that again. Unfathomable. And we appreciate you. Thank you. But yeah. Then DP Fan also goes on to say, when people try so hard to politically correct or incorrect at times, it really does come off as racist as fuck. The whole post-2016 culture wars of pro-SJW versus anti-SJW seems like two sides of the same coin. A lot of it is. A lot of it is. And that's the funny part. Like, it's that weird thing where the hardcore SJW crowd God bless them. Because there's noble intention there. Right? Like, I get it. And I appreciate it to some level. Where, you know, they want to come out and... Oh, what's up, Tevye? How you doing? I didn't want to ignore you before I go off on this tangent. But yeah, no, the Pro SJW crowd, they very much have their hearts in the right place. And I appreciate what they're trying to accomplish. But it's one of those, like, situations where the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because, and I wish I brought this up in my video with Jack Genocide a couple days ago, but yeah, no, dude, like, it's hilarious how the hardcore SJW crowd, they have no sense of self-awareness, you know, like, and in that, they completely miss the fact that because of their insane push for, you know, diversity and inclusivity and all that, again, positive things, but done in such a ham-fisted, kind of, you know, tone-deaf manner a lot of the times, it turns people off. And that breeds a hardcore, like, reaction in people who are kind of put off by that stuff. And that's how you end up with your Ethan Van Skybers and your boy Zax and, like, just some guy and Yellow Flash and all those guys. Like, that's how you kind of get that. And, yeah, you look at, like, Comicsgate is, like, regardless of, like, whether or not these guys want to believe it or not, Comicsgate is the inadvertent creation of, you know, the hardcore SJW movement. You know, with, like, Kelly Sue DeConnick saying, like, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my comic. Well, then congratulations, Kelly. Nobody bought your comic. In fact, most people dipped out of comics because of that attitude that you and, like, other people like you had. And most of the normies are gone. And a lot of the people who were, like, normies and became, like, weirdly radicalized by, you know, the extreme far right, well, then now they're off, you know, reading Cyberfrog. So, you know, congratulations. But I really don't think, you know, I really don't think that reality is going to sit well with those people. Those people. That was a terrible thing to say. That crowd, I should say. I'm sorry about that. I feel like I should just, like, make that, like, a, you know, that's the thing that happens, like, every episode. Wiring sucks in here. And my landlord just says, it's gonna be like that. So, it's gonna be like that. Feels good. But yeah. Tevye has a lot of input here. First off, hello. Yeah, I already said hello to you. What's up, homie? Tevye says, Superman and Robin I found to be fun. I did too. Thanks for getting us off of this, like, political train. Yeah, Superman and Robin was really fun. I liked it, although it kind of hurt my feelings. Reading Superman and Robin felt like getting a happy birthday text from your ex who cheated on you while you're still trying to get over them. That's what reading Superman and Robin felt like to me. It was supposed to be this big hurrah for, like, yay, the Super Sons are back. But for me, it just kind of felt like, damn, John's aged up and he's Superman now, and Damian is still a preteen figuring stuff out. Damn, that book hurt. And just reminded me, like, wow, DC really screwed the pooch with the Super Sons. They, like, really... Damn. Also, this was, like, the first time reading Aged Up John where I liked John. You know? And who'd have thunk that Peter Tomasi would be, like, a really good writer for John Kent? You know, it's almost like, John Kent is, like, his character. Even though he's created by, he's really created by Dan Jurgens, I think. But I think Tomasi, like, made John Kent his own. And, like, the way we think of John Kent is, like, the Peter Tomasi John Kent. But, like, he writes him as an adult fairly well. Kind of. He kind of writes... It's weird. There are points where he felt like an aged up version of John, but there are definitely points where he felt like a kid version of John still. But I'm not sure if, you know, I should read too deep into that as, like, you know, where being with Damian makes John feel like a kid again. Which maybe I'm not, because, like, John's watching cartoons. So maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But yeah, fun time. If you want to hop down memory lane and remind yourself that we're never getting the Super Sons back in comics. Really hurt my soul, that one. But yeah, also Victor Bogdanovic's art is fantastic. I want to see him do more Superman stuff. I think his artwork, I think his art style is, like, perfect for Superman. Tevye says, I am so tired of the word woke. It makes no sense. It comes from a whole phrase of, like, stay woke, you know, like, it really just means, like, be aware of what's going on, like, be aware of the subtext of the world around you. But then it just kind of devolved because of the whole culture war crap. It's not like the whole, like, red pill, blue pill thing, and how it's just kind of devolved into, like, you know, if you take the blue pill, you're a cuck, and you take the red pill, and you know that Hitler was right, like, weird stuff like that. So I don't know, a lot of that's just culture war crap. It's, yeah. And Tevye says that type of storytelling doesn't work for everything. Well, I don't know. It's weird. So I see a lot of talk about, like, politics, in comics, and how comics should be apolitical and all that. And a lot of that just doesn't, I don't know. Comics have always been political. They've always been political. For example, Batman. What's your average Batman story? There's corruption in the GCPD, or there's corruption in the mayor's office. That's a political story, ain't it? You know? What's your average Superman story? Lex Luthor is this evil billionaire, and Superman has to... Well, now you're getting into politics, aren't you? So that's the thing, like, superhero comics are, like, often very political. It's just... I think when people talk about politics in comics, they're latching on to a lot of the preachiness in a lot of modern comics. But I don't think that's the fault of politics. I think that's the fault of Marvel and DC. Well, not just Marvel and DC. I think that's the fault of a lot of comic book publishers publishing works from writers who aren't good writers. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem isn't the politics. more so the fact that the people writing these stories don't know how to write effective stories. Maybe? That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, I don't know. Toby says the term SJW makes no sense anymore. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It's just again, it's like one of those buzzwords. TB fan says a pitch for WB, the hell of Joss Whedon's creations, a documentary only on HBO Max. That would be interesting to watch. Yeah, no, terrible stuff. Tevia says, I personally would love to do a collaborative video someday. Totally, man. We've done videos with each other before. Yeah, man, just hit me up later. Totally. Tevia says both sides are wrong. You can say that for a lot of things. And says I avoid comics hate like the plague. Yeah. It really does break my heart that Superman and Robin is a one-shot because I really want more Tomasi with the Super Sons. Me too, dude. That's really all I want with John Kent. This whole, and I talked about this with Jack Genocide on the on our I guess you can call it a podcast because it's like an hour and 30 minutes long, but I talked with Jack about it, and it's just like I was talking about earlier. You know, it's not the politics that are the problem, which I think a lot of people are reaching for. It's more so just the fact that Tom Taylor does not know how to write Superman in continuity and do anything interesting with that character or that status quo. That's more so the problem for me. So yeah, but I guess Tom Taylor's on that book for God knows how long. Sadly, the Hypercube was the last chance to DH our boy Jonathan Samuel Kent Superboy. Yeah, but DC's not gonna DH him. But I also would say don't worry about it because I get the strange suspicion that DC is going to reboot in the very, very near future. Hint, hint, wink, wink, death of the Justice League. Tevia says, yeah, Tomasi and Dan Jurgens did Jonathan Samuel Kent Superboys from Justice. Yeah, they did. DB fan says, the Joss Whedon virus that affected me. The post-Avengers, the movie 2012, and post-Green Lantern, the movie 2011 leaked into the mainstream. Yeah, they did. It was so bad that it caused my lights to go out temporarily. Just uttering the name, Joss Whedon, and that material just causes, paranormal activity. So yeah, no, we're gonna have to cleanse the demons from this room by by talking about some other good stuff that like actually is good and worth talking about. Holy crap. Tevia says, heck, Action Comics is also great too. Yeah, but that's Philip Kennedy Johnson, and Philip Kennedy Johnson's like perfect, kind of. I still have problems with the way he writes Clark a little bit. I think he simps for Clark a little too hard. I think Clark is a fascinating character, and he's kind of approaching Clark from this perspective of like, well, no, he's the perfect man. I disagree with that. I think Clark Kent has a lot of like legitimate character flaws. Like as a person, I think, and we talked about this earlier. Like last week when I think Josiah asked me to pitch like my Superman, which I don't really think was my Superman. No, I think Tristan asked me to do that. But like yeah, no, like I really don't think I really don't think Clark Kent's a perfect character. Superman is perfect, but that's because Superman's not real. Superman's a mascot that Clark Kent parades himself around because Superman represents all of Clark Kent's beliefs and ideas. But nah, Superman is, well, not Superman. Clark Kent is like a flawed person, like everybody else in the world. And I think Clark Kent makes a lot of mistakes. But I don't know. It's an interesting thing that Johnson's going for, and I'm really liking it. It's the most I've enjoyed a Superman comic since Tom King's Walmart book series, Superman Up in the Sky, maybe. So yeah. Tevye says, heck, the X-Men was always political. Yeah, they were. And still are. Tevye says, a new question. Any opinion on Marvel breaking up Peter and Mary Jane again? Because for me personally, I'm tired of it. Kind of. So here's the thing with Spider-Man in particular. Spider-Man is a soap opera. Like, straight up, through and through, Spider-Man is a soap opera. You know, like, when I think of Spider-Man comics, I think of a cast of characters that are just highly dysfunctional for the sake of our viewing pleasure, because what we're essentially reading is a superhero telenovela. So, you know, Peter and MJ can't make shit work, and they're just being dysfunctional. Okay, sure, I guess. Because that fits the telenovela, like, trope for, like, those cast of characters, and I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Or at the very least, I think it's fine to, like, inject a little, you know, tension into their relationship. Totally fine for Spider-Man. I think it's alright. Also, I highly doubt they're going to break Peter and MJ up, like, for reals. DP Fan says, comics can be political without preaching and demonizing its own audiences. Blame these new writers and creators from the dark web, Twitter, and Tumblr. LOL. Yeah, dude. Although I think that's not just a problem in comics. I think that's a problem in, like, most media. Like, I know people really love and have, like, a deep appreciation for Spider-Man No Way Home. That was a movie written by Reddit. Like, you know that meme where it's like, this movie written by Reddit. That movie was written by Reddit. You know, and there's a lot of and unfortunately comics have that problem really hard right now. A lot of comics feel like they're written by Reddit. And have felt like that for the past, like, several years. Like that Tom Taylor, Son of Kal-El book, that feels like it's written by Reddit, you know? A lot of the New 52 comics were definitely written by Reddit, it feels like. That, Kelly Sue DeConnick and, like, Kelly Thompson, Captain Marvel era with Carol Danvers, that feels like it was definitely written by Reddit and Tumblr. You know, like, it's just a problem right now in comics, and not just comic, entertainment in general. A lot of stuff feels like it's written by Tumblr, and is like fanfic that you would see on, like, what is it, like archive.net, something like that. It's one of the fanfic sites. Even there, I've like read some fanfic from friends of mine that is, I was gonna say a little better than what we're getting from, like, the actual licensed material, but some of it's actually a lot better than what we're actually getting with, like, licensed material. I know, like, one of my friends, she wrote a Black Widow short story that was, like, it was definitely better than the Black Widow movie. So, you know, yeah, man, just kind of be like that. Josiah says, whatever happened to Secret Crisis? I'm guessing that's not going to happen anymore. Not while Marvel and DC are still owned by mommy and daddy parent companies. Unfortunately. I would like to see that, though. That would be really cool. Tevia says, Teen Titans Academy, on the other hand, is so bad. I'm hearing that a lot. That's unfortunate. Because I really wanted to like that status quo. That's the status quo that I actually kind of pitched in like my Nightwing video, where like I said a couple years ago that like DC has no idea what they're doing with Nightwing, and I still feel that way. You know what? Let's talk about Nightwing for a second. Because I had a whole I did my Batgirl video, and there was a whole section in that where I was gonna talk about Nightwing and how I think Nightwing is a character who could be one of DC's crowning achievements when it comes to legacy, but because of just various factors, I think that title should go to someone like Barbara Gordon or Wally West. And the big problem that Dick Grayson has is that he is often he's thrown into a solo title role. He's thrown into a leading man role for a solo title, and I think that is a mistake for Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson should be with the Teen Titans. Nightwing should be on a team with other superhero characters. That is his function. You know, Nightwing is the anti-Batman. You know, whereas Bruce Wayne is a character who was never alone. You know, like the whole thing with Bruce Wayne that I really like about Grant Morrison and Tony Daniels' interpretation of the character in that 1 year later era is that Bruce Wayne was never alone as Batman. That's actually what makes Batman succeed as a character. He's always had help from other people. But he wears this facade. He wears this face of being the ultimate loner. And like, no, I work alone. I slink in my costume. This all dark and moody, and I'm alone. I'm so alone. And I'm Batman. But that's not true. Bruce has always had people around him. He's had Alfred. He's had Dick Grayson. He's had Robin since like year 2. You know, he's been a part. He's a founding member of the Justice League. He's not a loner. Bruce Wayne is not a loner. Batman is not a loner. But he likes people to think that he is. Dick Grayson does not have that hang up. Dick Grayson does not go it alone. Dick Grayson is a people person, and he's open with the fact that he's a people person, and he owns that within himself. Like, he's comfortable with that fact. So, why on God's green earth would you put Dick Grayson in a discount version of Gotham City and have him just be a dollar store Batman? That defeats the purpose of the character. Like that. But again, I know why he was put in that position. It's because he's popular. You know, I say that in my Batgirl video where I talk about the legacy of Batgirl and Barbara Gordon. Dick Grayson is forced into a solo leadership role or like leading man role in a solo title because he's popular, despite the fact that I don't think Dick Grayson works in that kind of setting. So yeah, sorry, that was just me ranting about Dick Grayson and Nightwing and how I think that's a character that DC just painfully just kind of misunderstands the intent behind. That's just forever frustrated me. Tevia says Tom Taylor's Dark Knights of Steel is also really good. I like it a lot. It's bizarre, you know? It's really bizarre that Tom Taylor will write Dark Knights of Steel, which is amazing, and at the same time write Son of Kal-El. Yeah. But I've said all I care to say about Son of Kal-El, honestly. Tevye says maybe entertainment needs a reality check. I love that sentence. I I love that sentence. I love you, buddy. I love you, Tevye. Josiah says, what do you think about Mjolnir being a woman now? Yeah, my buddy told me about that a couple of weeks ago. I don't care. Well, it's not that I don't care. It's more so like, I think you can make that an interesting idea. It's just, part of me doesn't trust Donny Cates to do it well or like interesting. But also part of me does, because Donny Cates is a really good writer for the most part when he wants to be. King in Black's pretty terrible. And his Venom run kind of goes off the rails in like the worst way possible. But God Country is still really good. Venom starts off really strong. So yeah, Donny Cates is a pretty good writer. Also, I like the beginning of his Thor run. I think it starts out really good. I just haven't been keeping up with it because comics are a little expensive. But yeah, no. It might be cool. I just haven't checked it out because I'm not prioritizing reading Thor right now because funds are tight and like the school semester's just started and I have to save money for my school texts, which are overly priced, to say the least. And that's like the nicest way I'm gonna put that. Tevye, question: why can't we have a Tim Drake Robin book? Because he had Stephanie Brown deserve something like their own book. Probably because Tim Drake, ever since Damian Wayne was introduced into DC Comics canon, has been deemed irrelevant, unfortunately. Which sucks. But it is what it is. I still think bringing back Damian Wayne was a mistake. But, yeah, oh well. I guess Tim's just gonna have to manage being the middle child that like everyone ignores, but like still really likes and has like a lot of reverence for. And I'm actually going to wrap this up because we're going on an hour and 12 minutes. So I'm gonna go through these last couple of chats and then I'm gonna call it a night. Because I still have to do some stuff for. I have to do more gameplay for the Arkham City Let's Plays that I'm doing, and I still have to get some work done on that Miles Morales video that I'm working on. Hopefully you guys think that's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm starting on that tonight. DP Fan says Marvel Now reboot of 2012 and DC's New 52 of 2011 reboot was the start of all this BS. Writing felt off as F. Matt Fraction's Hawkeye led to the character becoming a Gen X airhead loser with the other creators. Yeah, although... Okay, so the whole thing with Matt Fraction's run on Hawkeye, I view that in the same way that I view Frank Miller and Lynn Varney's and I almost said Matt Hollingsworth, but that's not right. God, who's the dude who who's the guy who did the colors for no, not the inks for Dark Knight Returns. He worked with Frank Miller on Klaus Janson. Yeah, that whole team. Blaming Matt Fraction for what happened to Hawkeye is like blaming Frank Miller for what Batman is today. You know, all they did was write a story. Matt Fraction wrote an amazing story, and David Aya's art was creme de la creme. It was beautiful. Is beautiful. And it's not their fault that they told a story And a lot of people read it, and they just missed the point, and they just kind of pulled the most superficial, like, aspects from that narrative, and then just kind of reinvented the character to just be a parody of themselves, or a parody of what Fraction and Aya were going for. In the same way that you can't blame I guess you can't blame Frank Miller, and Lynn Varley and Klaus Janson for an entire generation reading Dark Knight Returns and completely missing the point of that book. Like, I mean, completely missing the point of that book. And I did a video on that. I'm not sure how well that performed, but like, yeah, no, it's, yeah, that's kind of that's the thing that irritates me. A comic will get like popular, and then people will read it and just miss the point of why it works in the first place, which spirals characters into like this weird space. Yeah, it's frustrating. But that happens a lot. Tevi says, I still maintain that Barbara Gordon works way better as Oracle than Batgirl. I agree. And I'm glad she's back in that Oracle role. Tevia says, the main Venom book right now is really confusing me. Well, that's not a good sign because I wasn't reading it. But thanks for steering me clear, I guess. Tevia, any opinion on Deaths of Wolverine? Because I read that book and I'm so confused. Like the Charles Soule book, Death of Wolverine? I thought it was pretty good. I liked it a lot. I wish Logan stayed dead, because I think that would have been a pretty cool thing to do with that character. Just like let them be at peace. Because very few characters have really good deaths. Like, and that's the thing that irritates me a lot. Which is why the whole thing with Death of the Justice League is just kind of perplexing and annoying. Like, when characters have really good deaths, bringing them back is like almost an insult to that character. Which is why I don't like the fact that Damian Wayne came back to life. As much as I love the Super Sons, Damian has like a really solid character arc from Batman and Son up to the end of Batman Incorporated, and then he's brought back, and now he's in a weird cycle of just repeating the same character arc that he already went on in the middle of Grant Morrison's run on Batman and Robin Reborn. Like the whole thing where like Damian's like stuck in this weird limbo where like he keeps ripping off the R from his chest, and he's like, I don't want to be Robin. And that's annoying to me, because like Damian is, if you read Morrison's run, Damian, he already went through that, and then Talia became his arch nemesis, and he was like, I hope I'm a worthy adversary, mother. And Bruce Wayne comes back, and then Damian is the Robin to his father's Batman, and we find that being Robin is like the most important thing to him. Like he traded everything in the world. He traded being in the lap of luxury with his mother for being in, I was gonna say the dirt and the ditches, but like living in Wayne Manor and having a butler tend to you isn't really the ditches. But comparatively speaking, Private Island, and like an army of like ninjas at your disposal versus just being an old money aristocrat billionaire on the East Coast of America, I would imagine is kind of a downgrade. But that's like rich people problems. Oh no, not rich people. That's wealthy people problems. But yeah, no, like Robin means everything to Damian, and I don't know, just him being in the cycle of like I'm not Robin anymore. That's dumb. That's insulting to me. Because, yeah. Just like I think it's insulting to bring Barry Allen back from the dead. I think that's insulting to the entire legacy of the Flash. So yeah, no, that's there. But I've already talked about that numerous times. Tevia says, I don't understand Tom Taylor. He writes great Elseworld stories, especially his Nightwing book, but his Son of Kal-El book isn't great. Yeah. Tevia, any opinion on Super Sons animated movie coming out this year? Because personally, I am hoping that this movie turns out good, because for me, that could be my last chance of seeing my boy Jonathan Samuel Kent. Well, all I'm gonna say is, I hope it's good and I hope you enjoy it, because that definitely will be the last time you see Jonathan Samuel Kent as a little kid. Because even after DC most likely reboots in like the near future, it's gonna be one of those reboots where like they get rid of some stuff but they keep other stuff, and I think the stuff that they keep, it's John being an adult, is gonna be in there. DP fan, death and resurrection in comics, the endless cycle of popular characters with fandom's demands. Yeah, and that's there are many benefits to liking popular characters and liking and following Marvel and DC, but like one of the big drawbacks is this crap. And last one before we peace out today. Any opinion on Young Justice Phantoms? Because personally, I love that show, and seeing both Damian Wayne and my boy Jonathan Samuel Kent, Superboy, on that show makes me really happy. Yeah, I love Young Justice. I think it is probably the best depiction of the DC universe across all media. And I think it's really good, and I like what they're doing with setting everything up. I think it's really good. But yeah, no. I can't wait for Young Justice to come back, and yeah, I'm really into it. But yeah, guys. I think I'm gonna call it a night on this one. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for chatting comics with little old me. And yeah, I guess we'll pick this up next week again, Wednesdays at 10:30. Sorry for starting at 10:41 this week. I just really wanted to see what was going on with my little webcam here, because I'm trying to make these look and feel as good as they possibly can, But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, hit the like button. And subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Some stuff coming down the pipeline soon. I'm going to be doing more daily uploads of my Arkham City Let's Plays, so that's going to be coming out. And I'm also working on, like I said earlier, a video about Miles Morales, and people debating whether or not Miles is the real Spider-Man or not, because that's an ongoing thing, like 10 years later. So that's a headache, but still a fun thing to like noodle around. And beyond that, I don't know what I'm gonna do next. I'm just gonna maybe react to whatever the hell people on the internet say and do regarding comics. But yeah, until next time, adios, nachos, adios. Good night. Take care of yourselves. And have a happy, I don't know, whatever holiday is coming up next. Alright, see you next week at 10:30. Peace.